Hey guys, it's Toby Morrison here, and on the other end we've got Miguel from Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
But
Vancouver.
you're not actually in Vancouver right now.
No, I'm across America in Mexico in Cancun on vacation.
Dude,
Yeah.
before we get into this chat, it's funny, we were just talking about it just off air, but you're like a video marketer, and I knew you obviously through the online recovery program, and then, I've seen you recover, and then I saw you start your own business and launch it, and it just looks super professional. And literally like 2 days ago, I was like, oh, I need someone to help me with some editing of some videos for YouTube. And then I was looking online, and then I thought, oh, that guy, Miguel from Vancouver, I'll message him. And so I messaged you, and I'm like, hey, like, dude, I remember you doing video, like, do you think you could help me? And you were like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, oh, we need to like do a success story because we haven't done one. And the crazy part was that you messaged me saying, dude, that's been like my dream to do a success story, because, it wasn't that long ago when you were watching some success stories online when you were really struggling with your health.
I remember I was like, this was after 3 months of being completely bedridden. I found your videos. I was writing down notes on like sticky notes, putting them on beside my bed. I was like, pace yourself, control your activities. But I was saying to myself, I'm going to be in one of these videos on Toby's channel, CFS Health. And that was my goal. I was like, I promised to myself I'm going to be on there one day, because at that point, that was like impossible to do. But now it's like actually coming true. So it's crazy. I was in the hospital for a while.
You kind of just weren't able to physically function.
Yeah, exactly. Like at the worst, like there were a lot of really low times, but at the worst, I could not turn over in bed for like a good week. I needed help turning over and stuff. My dad I asked him to blend my food, because even them feeding me, like spoon feeding me, it was so exhausting. So I had to like drink. I remember he blended like fish and rice this one time, and it tasted so bad, but I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to eat it. Yeah, so it started when I was getting hooked on energy drinks for work, because I'm the type of person who just goes. There is no stop. If I wasn't working, I was studying something like a sales book or whatever. But I was always drinking energy drinks, lots of pre-workout. For anybody who doesn't know that stuff, it's like a bunch of stimulants that wake you up. It's kind of like really strong coffee, but in a different form. Energy drinks, pre-workout, working like 12-hour days. And the biggest thing was just the mental stress. I would always put a lot of pressure on myself to be the best and all that kind of stuff. And then after about a year doing that, I started noticing that I had sleeping issues. So I was like, okay, it's just sleeping issues. And then one day, I start feeling really shaky. I'm just reading a book in the library, and then had the worst panic attack ever. My heart rate went up to like 150, blood pressure went through the roof, and then they had to give me oxygen and stuff. I thought I was going to die right there. That was the first time that happened. And over the next year, that probably happened 15 times, just randomly, until it got to the point where I was so deconditioned where I had to stay home for like a good few months. And then I started seeing a naturopath, and the naturopath was giving me tons of stuff like adaptogens, other vitamins for my adrenals. And I was also getting IV treatments, which I see a lot of people in the group get, but I would definitely not recommend getting a lot of those, because I was getting one like every 2 weeks. I was like living off that stuff.
What kind of symptoms were you experiencing in that time? Was it the severe fatigue, the lethargy, swollen glands, sore throat? Like for you, what was it? Because everyone's kind of different.
Yeah, for me, it was more so like a bunch of things combined. It was never just one, it was like a dozen. But the main one was always a lingering headache, always some kind of headache going on, or nausea, but also heart rate. My heart rate was always high, and it would feel like my head was pounding, insomnia. My body was buzzing. I'd be lying in bed at like 3 a.m. and then my thoughts are just racing. And it's crazy because everything just starts to snowball. Once you get a few symptoms, and it's like you get anxious about them, and you get more, and then just body aches and weakness and shortness of breath, like a lot of that stuff.
You had a naturopath. Did you kind of find it hard to, figure out what you had? Like, was it?
Yeah, that was one of the most frustrating parts, because I saw my family doctor for it. I saw multiple doctors actually, and then even the doctors in the hospitals. When I went to the hospital, I got turned away multiple times, or sometimes I was so weak I couldn't even like hop up on the X-ray machine. And they're like, "No, you're fine, you'll do it." But little did they know, like if I do that and just walking across the room for the x-ray machine and like in a crash cycle. They had no idea what was going on. They did tests on me, like multiple tests, liver. They even tested my nervous system with this like electrode thing, CT scan. They did all kinds of blood tests, adrenal test, which actually turned out okay, which was really weird.
Yeah. Going, like, you were obviously super fit, and then from going from that to then basically not being able to do anything, that in itself is a huge mental adjustment.
That was one of the hardest parts. Yeah.
It almost is the hardest part, especially in order for you to start the recovery process. It's like you go from here, you go down, and then it's like you're at this spot and it's like, oh shit, like I can't do what I know who I am and what I do. And it's like, who am I? What do I do? And so how did you deal with that?
Oh man, that was easily the hardest part. Well, yeah, that was the hardest part. I relied a lot on the people around me, especially family, somebody to talk to, because then it would feel like I'm not going crazy. I'm still here. I could still have some sort of conversation. But the loss of identity was big for me because my whole life, yeah, I was an athlete. I was like football team captain, wrestling team in high school. I was the fit guy. I was the go-getter. And then now, like, I couldn't even bring myself to the washroom by myself. Your ego takes a huge hit. And then you're left there thinking like, okay, you need to rebuild yourself from scratch, but you don't know where to start because what can you do? Nothing really. So,
dude, like I'm remembering back to my days when I went through exactly what you're going through, and it's like when the doctor or even your family or your loved ones, they say, oh yeah, you just like, you just need to get a bit more motivated and like, just start a bit of exercise and go for a walk. And especially where you were at, which was pretty non-functioning. So it's like, how do you even start that? From that point, when did you find the program?
It was like probably 3 months being super bedridden. I got to the point where I could kind of like look at my phone screen from the corner of my eye. It's looking directly at it would trigger a migraine. So I just kind of scroll and just click on a video and then listen to it to try to kill time and all that. And then I came across I found the testimonial videos to be huge because then I was realizing like, wow, okay, I'm not the only one who's going through this. Like there are other people. And that was the biggest one because then it actually gave me some sort of hope. That's another thing too. So I would try to look for answers, which would only make things worse because I was convinced, like 100% convinced that I had like MS or Lyme's disease or like early onset of Alzheimer's, because sometimes I would just be lying there and my head is like twitching or like rocking back and forth and I can't control it. I'm like, what the heck? Do I have like early onset Parkinson's or whatever?
So what was that pivot point when you joined the program? What happened? Like what happened? How did you shift and go, all right, it's like gone from searching for all these answers that aren't there and you're getting worse and, that stresses you out. And this is what I say to basically everyone who joins the program. It's like, stop searching. It doesn't.
Yeah, it really starts with your mindset. And that's what I learned. Like as much as it is in your body, it's like your brain is sending your body the wrong signals. So you need to rewire what's going on up here to fix anything that's happened neck below. So yeah, it didn't happen instantly for me. Like it probably took another 5 months because I would push myself way too hard as in I would sit up 10 times a day instead of 6 times a day. And like that would be overdoing it for me.
Wow.
That was my baseline at that point. In my mind, I was just like, okay, there is no other option. Like this is the way to get better. Stop searching for answers. Stop wishing that you're just magically going to change. It's almost like if you're driving down a road and you hit a brick wall, it's like that brick wall is gone now. And it's like, okay, we're going this route and then we're just going to stick with it. Thing with CFS, it's like you think you're at rock bottom, you think it's bad, and then it gets even worse, and then it gets even worse. So it's just not putting too many expectations on yourself to like all of a sudden recover one day. For me, it got to the point where it's like, okay, I have nothing to lose. Let's just try, but no expectations. I'm not hoping to get better like next week or anything. I slowly started getting better from there. And it wasn't perfect. Like there were still days where I had to sleep in bed all day, but then maybe the next day I would sit in a wheelchair and go to the washroom on my own. And for me, that was like, I was ecstatic to do that. So it's just getting excited about the little things. Like I was so happy that I was able to bring my wheelchair 20 feet away and like eat with other people sitting up. For me, that was the turning point because it's like, okay, this is what it feels like to be normal again, to eat with people and just talk.
You're really setting the example for what it is like to make recovery less stressful by going, you know, I'm going to do what I can to help myself, but I'm not expecting to like get better overnight. And you know, anything's a bonus at this time.
Yeah. And that's the way I see it now. Everything's a bonus. If it seems like I'm having a bad day, or say I lose out a deal on a big client or whatever, I'm stuck in traffic for, let's say, 5 hours, then it's actually not that bad, because I definitely know what it's like to be in the hole. And in my mind, it's like, there were so many times I could not even be here anymore because I was so bad. So now everything is just like so much better. When I was in the hospital, they started giving me, I was taking Tylenol, I was taking blood thinners in bed because I wasn't moving. They had me on like 8 different things, but they gave me selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which they're known as antidepressants, but really they taught me the science behind it, where it just like unties the knot in your mind. So they're like, okay, well, the medication will help kind of just get you out of the hole, but like what's going to help you really get better, like long term, and the most powerful thing is how you deal with your symptoms and how you handle them. So every time let's say I wheeled myself to the washroom, come back, and then I feel my legs kind of shaking a little bit, and then I'm kind of out of breath, I didn't freak out. Whereas before I would totally freak out. It's just understanding that, you're building yourself up again. But actually, just like you teach, is take two steps forward and expect to have 1 step back or whatever, but it's not going to be a perfect line straight up. Even now, I'm still pushing myself. And then say this trip, I'm in Cancun, I'm probably going to, 1 or 2 of the days, I'm going to just chill out all day. Right. But it's at the point where I'm like kind of a normal person now. Yeah. And just learning to mentally just check out. Like if there's something you have to do or you have an obligation, just if you can mentally just like switch that off, I think that's the biggest thing. Cause now I don't really stress at all for my business or anything. Whereas before I would freak out about the smallest things. So it's just learning to let go, which that has been the biggest thing that this has taught me.
What are like 3 key pivot points for you from when you shifted from that rock bottom? I feel like number 1 is really when you just stopped looking for all these different problems and you just stopped focusing on that and you started focusing on what you could do. Is that number 1?
I would say, getting rid of expectations. Getting rid of expectations and just be. Literally just be. I would say deal with your symptoms in a healthy way. Like, don't freak out as soon as like you start getting out of breath or you feel your heart rate start to go up a little bit. I kind of taught myself to have a positive correlation with that. So it's like, okay, I'm getting all these symptoms. I know that if I slow down right now, it'll give my body time to adjust. It wasn't like, oh, I need to stop right now, or else my body's just going to crash again. It's like, okay, let's push ourselves to that point. And if we feel that, then let's pull it back. Let's just barely touch that point and pull it back so that our body has time to adjust. I guess for me, I'm pretty lucky because I found my passion, which is video and all that. But for me, it was like setting little milestones or goals and just always having that vision in my mind. Because when I got out of the hospital, I had to track my steps. So I got a Fitbit and I was at like 200, 300 steps a day and 400, 500. But I would just have little milestones and it was cool to see it building. And then some weeks I would just be so tired and sleepy all the time, and for me, I learned to accept that. It was okay. Once you start noticing the little wins, like for me, my girlfriend would visit me for like 8 months. She would bus over like 2 hours twice a week across the city to visit me. So it was cool to finally drive over to her after all those 8 months of her visiting me. So that was like surreal. It's almost like everything you do again, it's like brand new. And I just got super excited about that. Like just going outside and breathing in fresh air when I wanted to with my dog, like that was awesome.
Tell us like physically, what are you up to in your work? Like tell me like who you're working with, what kind of stuff.
When I was sick, I always envisioned in my mind that I would travel a lot, that I would be on my own schedule and be able to just do all this cool stuff. And when my body was in too much pain, then I would like take my mind elsewhere and kind of live in this fantasy world. And it's cool because a lot of those things that I was envisioning for hours and hours every day, it's like I got to experience it all within the past year. Like I went to Hawaii. I'm in Cancun now. I'm running a video production company. It's cool because that also ties into me traveling. So I get to travel with some guys to do vlogs with them, which is awesome. I'm probably making more money than I was in the personal training now. Whereas before I felt like that was the only way to do it. And I feel like getting sick, it opened all these new doors for me. It made me look at things from a different perspective. And life was good. Life was great. It's great. Better than I imagined it would be when I was sick. I think like it was really bad, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would probably still be personal training, which was a job that I really liked, but it was just burning me out. And there was no finish line to it. And I was just working way too much and not taking care of myself. And getting sick kind of taught me to be grateful for all of that and to just listen to my body. 100% just always listen to my body. But it's been crazy. Everybody I tell now, it's like they can't believe that. I tell them I was in bed for 8 months, like completely bedridden. I had to get spoon fed, and then had to get help from my 7-year-old grandma to go to the washroom, where it should be the other way around. I should be helping her at that age. They can't believe it. And I'm like, yeah, just stay away from the coffee and the pre-workout. That's what I tell them.
If someone's at home right now, they're watching this, they're in a bad way, they're relating to you, they're going, man, I'm at where you were at, you're talking about the past. What would you say to that person?
A lot of people have been there before, and I was there. Like, it seems impossible. That would be like me saying I want to climb Mount Everest tomorrow. Like, that's how unrealistic it would feel for you. But just keep having that vision in your mind and just think about what you want to do when you get better, or even say if you were to get better, because I feel like that would be more believable for you. So just keep dreaming, keep having that vision, and then naturally you'll be pulled towards that. Think about all the stuff you would do if you were better, what you want to be doing in 10 years, all the places you want to travel to and visit. Just keep meditating on that, because that will subconsciously put all these ideas in your mind. It'll just take your mind off all the pain and that stuff. And that's what I did, and it helped a ton.
Thanks heaps again. We'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
See you, mate. Thank you.